All right, so going over problem number 2, your first step is to identify opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So remember, you do this based on what's the angle that's given to you. So we're going based off of the 45 and the 90. So remember, um, what's always across from the 90-degree angle? It's always the hypotenuse. So here's a 90, across from that should be the hypotenuse. Then we look at the angle that's given. So in this case, it's a 45. What goes across from the angle, what should be across to the other side, that should be the opposite side. And then the x, the side with the x is going to be next to the 45 because see, they're side by side. So that means this one is adjacent, which means next to. All right, now out of these 3 sides of the triangle, only 2 of them actually have something written, this one and this one. So that means that we can get rid of the opposite because we don't need that one. There's nothing to do there with it since it doesn't have anything. So then we're left with adjacent and hypotenuse. Now out of the 3, out of sine, cosine, and tangent, which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse? It's cosine. Cosine uses adjacent over hypotenuse. So remember this. So we're going to do cosine of the degree that's given. So cosine of 45 degrees. And then we're going to set it equal to the actual fraction that we do. So adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent is x, so that's going to go first on the top. And hypotenuse is 100 square root of 2, so that's going to go on the bottom. All right. Now that we've set up our problem, we just need to do one more thing before we solve it. We need to figure out what is cosine of 45 degrees. So that's where you have to go back to the triangle that I told you had to memorize. So because this triangle has a 45-degree measure in it, that means it's a 45, 45, 90. It doesn't have a 30. See, there's no 30 or 60 written anywhere here. So that's why it's not the 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now, I don't have it written here, but I'm just going to sketch it out really quick. So the 45, 45, 90 triangle that I told you to memorize looks like this. And then you have a 1 and a 1 for both legs of the triangle. And then the hypotenuse that's across from the right angle is the square root of 2. So then you just need to apply these measurements to the triangle that we're doing. So these 2 triangles are similar in that they're the same shape, just different sizes. So then if we're going to apply these measures to over here, remember you're going to carry the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the square root of 2, so I'm going to write that down. So square root of 2 for the hypotenuse. And then remember that both legs of the triangle are a 1, so I'm going to write a 1 here and a 1 here. Now, keep in mind, as in before, the 1 isn't needed over here because there's nothing there to start with. As in the problem didn't give anything to do that side. So we don't need that one. So all we need is adjacent and hypotenuse, so what we have here. Now, just like we set up the x and the 100 square root 2, we're going to do the same thing with the 1 and the square root of 2. So then this would be 1 over square root 2. That's the value of cosine of 45. This is equal to this. And then I will bring down the right side of the equation. So x over 100 square root of 2. I'm going to just move this triangle off to the side. We don't need it anymore now that we've set up the equation. Now once the equation's set up with fractions on both sides, then you're going to cross multiply. So square root of 2 times x is just square root 2x. And then 1 times 100 square root of 2. The 1 multiplies the 100. Since they are both outside of the root, though, it'll just end up looking the same. And then the last step is to divide both sides by the square root of 2. So I will divide by square root of 2. That will cancel these out. And on the right side, I will also divide by square root of 2, which in this particular case will cancel out since they have the same. Anytime you have the same on the top as you have on the bottom, they will cancel out basically. So on the left side, I just have x left, and on the right side, I just have the 100 left. And there you go. There's your answer. X is equal to 100.